How was your education experience? Were you one of those that thrived and really enjoyed school? Were you one of those perhaps sailed through mid-level, perhaps had a couple of great subjects that you really enjoyed? Throw your mind back to perhaps when you were around 11, 12 years old. Like me at the time, to be honest, it was a terrifying experience. At that point, I'd been told that I was going to amount to nothing. Severely dyslexic, I'd been bullied as well. The thought of further education into secondary school was utterly terrifying. The fear of God. But the only thing that I could really see as a way through this, and I'm not a negative person by any means, was that you would have to go in, get through it, perhaps scrape by in the lower sets, and then at the earliest opportunity, around the 16 mark, leave and get straight into work. And that's exactly what was facing me. But at that moment in time, there was a thought around, surely there's another way. Surely there's a way that doesn't perhaps rely so heavily on traditional academia and capabilities alone. So over the next few years, I really looked to try and develop on the skills I did have, the interpersonal skills, the relationship building skills that I had. And in doing so, it actually had a positive knock-on effect. So I spent a little bit more time with teachers. I tried to provide that little bit of extra value, even help with some of my peers where I could. And that became the currency that I actually ended up trading in. So it meant that not only did I manage to get through secondary school, but I did so at a reasonable level. It's what also enabled me to get into college and even further education, which I think was a surprise to everyone. And if we fast forward to the end of what that looked like, it was the end of year awards. And there's one moment in particular that stands out. There's an individual called John Harris that was delivering the most incredible and inspirational talk, after which I felt compelled that I had to go and speak to him, so I did exactly that. We had a good chinwag, what felt like probably hours, but at the end of it, John had turned to me and said, look, why don't you keep in touch? So I thought to myself, actually, why don't I keep in touch? As throughout my education so far, it's action that has led to the positive reaction. So I did exactly that. I got in touch. And imagine if you did too. So following that event, I then followed up on LinkedIn and we exchanged a couple of messages. That then led to a phone call. And the phone call went really well. At the end of it, he said, keep in touch. So what if you do? What if you do follow up that end of message, that end of phone call suggestion that so many of us have probably heard from one another? So I did exactly that. At the end of each month, we would have a phone call and he'd suggest I get back in touch the following month. So this went on for 14 months. At that point, at number 14, he then felt that it was actually, there's an opportunity to introduce me to someone, as then I could add value to that individual and perhaps the skill sets that I had would be of benefit. John made that introduction, and that introduction turned into a couple of coffees and conversations. That conversation and coffee then turned into an interview opportunity. 7 interviews later, and believe it or not, I'd actually secured the job. And that job was then a career-defining and life-changing move for me. And that all came down to proactively going and speaking to an individual and then proactively following up as a result of that. And when you look at it in the numbers, that's 1 conversation, that's 8 LinkedIn messages, that's 14 phone calls, 2 coffees, 7 interviews. And that's what then started me on my way. So through all of that proactive efforts, all of that chasing up, I'd gone from college to landing a career-defining role. And so this was game-changing for me. And I built on those skills and those relationships and continued. So 7 years of doing this, and it enabled me to build a credible career now that has been defining for me. And it took me from Bournemouth to where I live now in London. So if we go on several years, there's actually a Saturday where my sister had come up and we were outside having lunch, catching up. During this lunch, she turned to me out of the blue almost and said, hey, you're so lucky. You're so lucky to have the things you do and to be in the position that you are. Apart from almost choking on my food at the time, I was infuriated. But it also got me thinking, was I lucky? Was this a sheer fluke? Perhaps it was karma, something I'd done coming back to repay me. But when you think about it, and the Oxford Dictionary definition of luck is the occurrence of something happening to an individual without them taking action. So very much a passive destination. And that is the opposite of what I've been doing. I've been proactively working really hard to develop these relationships. So no, it wasn't luck, and far from it. But mine isn't the only case like that. Stephen Bartlett, who some of you may or may not know, but he's the CEO and founder of Social Chain. At 28 years old, he's doing incredibly well. Social Chain is fast becoming the largest social media marketing agency in the world. And Stephen shared a very similar upbringing to me. He also had troubles throughout his education. In fact, he was expelled on one occasion and left school. But that didn't stop him. He created his own luck proactively, leveraging the relationships he built, and in doing so, co-founded Social Chain. Now, over £200 million as a valuation, he's doing incredibly well. But that's just one other example. Others include the founders of Google, HP, Ben & Jerry's, Yahoo, and these have all benefited off the back of building relationships, not just academic achievements alone. So when we talk about network and these individuals connecting with each other, what do we mean? Well, the first thought that might come into some of your heads is actually networking is very corporate. It's very schmoozy, perhaps suited handshakes, business cards exchanging. Alternatively, perhaps it's one of which is a social media network of connecting with people via a social media platform. But one of the things that it does provoke is the fact that a network is very associated with financial gain and monetary value. So much so we can actually visualize this in an equation. So if you take people divided by handshakes over a period of time equating to financial gain. But I put it to you, perhaps there is a different way. Perhaps there's a better way that we can look at it, not through financial gain and monetary value, but perhaps about quality, about opportunities and human interaction. And it's these opportunities and converting these opportunities that enable us to succeed. So if I was to ask you a question, from your extended network, what is it and what is the value that you currently have and have had off the back of it? And I don't want you to think financial monetary value. What I want you to think about is the opportunity that those networks have provided. So perhaps introductions to people, perhaps their job opportunities, perhaps even the tradespeople that you now use, or a flat share that has become available. I, for one, know that 100% of where I am right now is a direct result to my network and the efforts that I've put into it. 100% of my current monthly earnings is a direct result of relationships forged, two of which 10 years ago. This incredible venue that we're in now, Alexandra Palace, has only been possible from a relationship founded 4 years ago and has taken work to continue since then. And the opportunity to stand right here, right now, as part of the incredible TED and TEDx program, is a relationship that was created 9 months ago. And so it's not about the money exchange and the monetary value, it's about the opportunity. But we have to be ready to convert those opportunities. We have to be prepared and with intent, so when those opportunities do come up, we're able to secure them. But some might say that actually networking is only for extroverts. It's for the some and not the many. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Whilst perhaps introverts may excel in more controlled environments and perhaps quieter environments, the fact of the matter is that I still get terrified when I have to go and meet new people at times. But knowing the potential benefits, the human exchange and the value that comes off the back of that, I've now converted that into excitement, knowing what I do. And also, even in those circumstances, the fact is that we are now more able than ever using digital platforms and social media groups and channels, is that we can connect with anyone, anywhere in our own controlled way. But in addition to that, the current climate we're in now, COVID, has flattened everything and put it all back to the start. You could be a graduate, you could be a Hollywood A-lister, you could be anyone in between. The fact of the matter is, you now have the same opportunities, the same channels of communication to engage with each other that everyone else has. No one is now further ahead or further behind. So there is no barrier to being able to engage. But there are a few fundamentals that we need to be mindful of when thinking about how to create and perhaps how to leverage a network. And there are 5 of these specifically. The first of which is authenticity. Now, with anyone within our network that we engage with, we have to be authentic. We have to care, we have to actually want to. It's the red thread that's sewn amongst all the principles. If you're not, it becomes very apparent that you're in it for monetary gain or otherwise. The second is value exchange. Now, I mentioned value exchange before, and that's the giving and the taking. Now, adding value, I added value in my story with time, with attention, with effort. It could be that you share an introduction or make an introduction. It could be that you share some data information for someone with a project. It could be anything of this. If it's only one way, that relationship will dry up. It takes both parties. The third is passion. So if you share a passion point, something in common with someone, you can accelerate the building of a relationship tenfold. This could be a member of the same support group. It could be that you're a connection with the same mentoring practice. It could be it's the same community or group on LinkedIn or any of the other social media platforms. By having that shared passion, you accelerate that initial introduction 7-fold. Penultimately, we have action. Now, without any of this, action is the thing that drives it forward. And this doesn't happen overnight. This has taken me nearly 20 years to develop the robust network that now provides the opportunities that I have. In the same way, you can see it as the gym, perhaps. So if you go to the gym on a consistent basis, you know that it takes time to build up, to become fitter, to get a better cardiovascular. But if you do it once or twice and that's it, then it won't build up and continue. So HubSpot recently released 2 statistics that were quite telling. The first of which is that 29% of all people don't have a network whatsoever. 49% of people have a network but don't actually engage with it at all. And these are really surprising statistics. Furthermore, when we talk about it and the action, it's something that we need to do little and often. Create a habit, a positive habit is a great way of looking at it. And then finally, trust. Now, those that we have trust with, automatically we will benefit better from in terms of valued relationships and valued opportunities off the back of it. So think of it this way. Those that will go into bat for you, it could be old classmates, it could be extended family, it could be ex-colleagues or peers. It's these individuals that will be able to refer you perhaps to a job opportunity or, like I say, vote for you and give you that credibility in a relationship, again, accelerating it consistently. There's a statistic that LinkedIn recently announced, and that is that 70% of all jobs over the last 2 years were awarded through referral of network. 70% of all jobs through network referral. So when you think about it, it's an incredible statistic, and there's a reason why. Your tenure at that company is going to be longer. The trust is already there. It saves them money, and you're going to give more productivity to that business. It's a no-brainer. But another way of looking at it is imagine you being at the center of a spider's web. And each of those threads is perhaps a phone call or a conversation, a contact. And each of those cross points is an individual. So there's only ever one piece of contact connecting you to someone else. And the size of your web and your network is absolutely limitless. So by getting in touch with people, again, you can use one of many different ways. But there's the saying previously that you are, or should I say, there's 6 degrees of separation. Now, given that we have this incredible tech, your smartphone being probably one of the most powerful things that you have, that's now down to 3. So you can reach anyone in the world and sharing a value and a mutual passion within 3 forms of contact, which is just mind-blowing. So knowing that, I want to pose a question to you. If I was to ask you now, what's the true value of your network, and does it put you in the red or the black? Do you give more than you take, or do you take more than you give? And whilst we have that in mind, it enables us to actually reformat that equation. So if we take people within our network, and let's call it network, divided by meaningful value exchanges, times by a period of time, equating to qualified opportunities. And by seeing it as that, it puts it in much better context, the fact that it takes work, it takes value exchanges in order to get those opportunities. Michelle Obama sums this up perfectly. In order to have a successful network, it's not about the financial gain, but about the positive impacts that we can have on others. So I'll leave you with a final thought. What one action can you take off the back of today's talk in order to help build out the worth of your network? Thank you.